Hello everybody, this is Mario Hernandez from Mediacurrent. In this video, we are going to complete the series we started in the previous video, which is building a navigation component and integrating that component with Drupal. So as you can see, in the previous video, we went ahead and built this component in PatternLab, where we were able to create a multi-level navigation system using a lot of the elements that Drupal provides to us when building or rendering menus. Things like the type of classes we want to add, whether the menu is expanded or collapsed, whether the menu link is part of the active trail. The goal now that we've built this component is to integrate this component with Drupal so that Drupal can make use of the menu. So if we look at Drupal, we can see that our menu doesn't look anything like the one we just built in PatternLab, right? And that is because we really haven't done anything with Drupal. Drupal's still not aware that we have a brand new component for navigation available to us. If we inspect the code in Drupal, we will see that everything still looks the same way as it did originally when we started working on this project. The thing that we've done is we created a template suggestion, a tweak template suggestion, so that the menu changes that we make only affect the main navigation and not other menus in Drupal. So let's take a look at that template. So this is the template suggestion we created for integrating the component. And since we already use all this code in our component in PatternLab, we don't necessarily have to write this all over again or work with this again. We actually can remove all of this code because now the code is coming from our component in PatternLab. The one thing we need to do here in order for Drupal to be aware of the navigation component is that we need to now include it or import it from PatternLab into Drupal. And we do that by writing an include tweak statement, which takes some parameters, one of those being a namespace or a path to our template, to our component template, and then the template name that we are trying to include or import. In this case, will be navigation.twig. So let's write that include now. This is a namespace that I've created in my theme, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But this is basically a way for us to more relatively or dynamic add paths to templates that we want to integrate or import into other templates rather than specifying absolute paths to templates. So by typing the namespace, now I can just say which component or template do I want to include. I want to include the navigation.twig template, which is inside the navigation directory in my components directory here. So before we do anything else, I'm saving this and let's take a look at that namespace. The namespace is very important. It's something that is required if you are going to be working with components in Drupal. And for that to work, you need to download and install the component libraries module. So make sure that that is downloaded and enabled on your Drupal site. And with that, you are going to create or you will have a namespace like this here where it says component libraries. This is the module that allows you to do that. And then you create your namespace. And you can name this namespace anything you like. In my case, I like to always use the name of the theme that I'm using. And my theme name in this case is Quartz Intranet Theme. Then a parameter that the namespace takes is paths. You can assign one or multiple paths where Drupal can go and look for twig templates. Because as you may know, by default, Drupal will only look for twig templates in your templates directory in your theme, right? But with this namespace, now you can define other locations in which Drupal could look for twig template. So back in my template, I'm going to save this. I'm going to clear Drupal caches since we've replaced the template. Now the Drupal cache is cleared, I'm going to go back to Drupal and reload the page. And we don't see much change here. Something is not right. Let's take a look. Let's inspect the code. Well, we can see that the markup is all correct. It's all coming from our component, right, that we built. It's got all the classes that we worked on adding to each of the list items and links and submenus. But it is certainly not looking the way we expect it to look. And why is that? Well, the reason is that although we have styles for the navigation, we have not made those styles available to Drupal just yet. They are available to PatternLab because in PatternLab by default those styles become available. But in Drupal, we need to be able to add the styles to the components we want to style. And how do we do that in Drupal 8 or 9? So in Drupal, we need to first create a library, and typically the library name will match the name of the component that you're trying to style. And so in this case, we have a navigation library where we are saying we are going to be passing CSS to a page or a component. And this is of type component. And here is the path to where our CSS styles exist in our theme. This is where all of our CSS is compiled into. So that's the first step. But the next step is we have the library, but we still have not told Drupal where we want these styles to be applied. Where should they be rendered, right? The beauty of libraries in Drupal is that you will only load them where you need them when you need them. This means that you don't have to load JavaScript or CSS on any pages that don't need them, which is great. So to do that, you will go into the component that we built earlier, the navigation.twig component, and we need to attach the Drupal library to it so that Drupal can make use of those styles every time this component is rendered on a page. So you use the attach library function, which takes a parameter of a path or library name that you want to attach, starting with the namespace of your theme. And so in this case, there is no @ sign there. It just takes the namespace itself and then the name of the library that you want to attach. One thing to keep in mind, let me save this again. One thing to keep in mind is that libraries have absolutely no effect in PatternLab. This is only for Drupal purposes because PatternLab is already getting the styles automatically the way we have our automated tasks for compiling code set up. And so you may wonder, so why are we attaching the library in PatternLab on the component? Why not just attach the library in the Drupal template here, right? We could certainly do that. We could copy this as an example, and we could attach the library here, and this will work just fine. But the advantage of attaching the library at the component level is that every time this component is used or included or nested into other Twig templates, then its library will come with it. If we didn't attach the library here, we will need to attach the library every time we want to use this component on other templates. So now that the library is attached, if I save my file here, you can see that my code is compiled here, which we want that to happen because we just made a change to the component. And if we look at Drupal now, if I reload the page, we can now see that our navigation is now styled the way our component navigation is styled. Then the navigation items are different because in Drupal, the Drupal menu that I created is not exactly the same, doesn't have the same links as the one I created in PatternLab. However, all the work that we did in PatternLab for the navigation is now available to us in Drupal. And as we add menus and links, then our navigation will behave just the way it behaves in PatternLab. So if we were to add this type of structure in Drupal, then this is what we should expect in PatternLab. So in Drupal, I'm sorry. The beauty of this is that if by doing all the work, right, all the heavy lifting in PatternLab, as we did here in this template, we are ensuring that our navigation is built in such a way that is easier to style, easier to work with. We get more context on what's happening with each link, with each list item, and drop down menus. And so once this work is done here in Drupal, we don't have to do anything except tell Drupal, hey, go grab that component to render the navigation menu on Drupal. And again, the advantage of using all these things directly from Drupal makes this a lot easier to integrate, where you don't have to specify any parameters here, because Drupal already knows that when it grabs this template, this navigation, that twig template, it will see all these pieces in that template. So now every time I want to make a change to the navigation, whether it's styles, let's say we want to add JavaScript, or we want to change the markup, we will do it all in pattern nav, and Drupal automatically reflect those changes. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. It is a little bit lengthy. However, this is a method that I prefer because it gives me a lot of control on what I can do with the navigation. There are other ways in which you can implement a navigation in Drupal. There are modules that you can use. One module in particular is the Simplify Menu module. It's actually a module that I co-maintain. And this makes it really easy to print a menu on any page or any template by simply passing this function of Simplify Menu with the machine name of the menu that you're trying to print. And then you can still make some modifications to markup and things like that. So I encourage you to look into it, because it may be easier for you to implement the menu this way. Again, I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Please feel free to comment on the video, subscribe so that you can get notified when new videos come up. And I look forward to the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.